So, Andy, we meet again, and well, it seems like things are happening at an increasingly quick pace now because there seems to be more talk already of medals, those that have bagged them and haven't got to the medal race, those that look likely, and those are still fighting for it. But is that what it feels like down there?
Well, it's quickening in the sense that time is running out. You know, the sand is running through the hourglass, and we should be done by Thursday, but we do have an additional reserve day on Friday. But what is not quickening is the strength of the breeze, and that's why we've got so much backing up. And I think I said on the last time we chatted, I think this is probably the worst ever Olympic regatta for breeze, and that just seems to be the case. And you know, that is the luck of the draw. And people ask me, well, was Marseille the right choice in the first place? Well, it's such a multi-layered reason why a place gets chosen. And obviously, you need to go to a place that has breeze. But the local sailors that race here say that you could still have really strong breeze at this time of year. The chances of that are diminished. But I do think, to be fair to all human beings involved in trying to run this Olympic Games, there's it's the weather gods we have to blame more than anybody else.
It's always a way, isn't it? You take a decent event somewhere with a reliable breeze, and the first thing someone's going to say to you is, "It's not normally like this here." But there we go. Well, talk us through what's been happening. Just to give us an overview of what's been happening since we spoke. We spoke on Sunday, didn't we? So we've had Monday and Tuesday, a couple of days. What's happened?
Yeah, well, I'd say the headline news is Marit Bouwmeester, when she gets that gold medal around her neck, because no one else can beat her to it, she will be the most decorated female Olympic sailor of all time. So she will now have, or very soon have, 2 golds, a silver and a bronze, which takes her past Hannah Mills, who has 2 golds and a silver.
That's Marit in the Ilka. So she's in the Ilka 6.
Correct. Yes. And yeah, she's won a medal at every games since London 2012, when she was involved in that 4-way who beats who final that we had in Weymouth. And she got the silver on that occasion, but she, like the other 3 in contention that day, could have come away with a gold on that occasion as well. She's very close to it. But she's absolutely dominated this week. This is the most straightforward victory compared with Rio. I mean, the points were a lot closer in Rio, but here she's wrapped it up with the medal race to spare.
That's amazing, though, isn't it? Because I mean, sorry to cut across, but that it just seems amazing. I mean, she is quite extraordinary, because she's been in that class for such a long time. You would think, we've seen it before, where people who've been in the class for a long time sort of struggle towards, the longer they're there, they get older, they're not quite as agile and nimble and competitive as the younger people coming up, but she just seems to get better.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how she would do if she went round again, but I think this is it for her in terms of Olympic athlete, but she's going to be setting up the Marit Bouwmeester Sailing Academy or Water Sports Academy in Scheveningen, and I think she's all about giving similar opportunities to the next generation. But she's 36 years old, and she is the mother of Jessie, her daughter, who recently turned 2. So there's all that to take into account as well. Just phenomenal time management. She had an awful Worlds by her standards at the start of the year in Argentina when she came 11th. And she said at the time, she said, well, this is the wake-up call I need. I need to toughen up or ship out. She said, you can either be the victim or you can find a way to deal with these things. And she found a different way of work-life balance, how to balance all the complications of family life with a young child at home. The other interesting thing from a technical point of view, I'm not going to tell you the brands of different Ilka that she's referring to, but there's various brands of Ilka that you can buy these days. It's not the pure one design that it was up until a few years ago. So you can choose from various manufacturers. She's been racing with a brand that she says is slow, and she's been trying to race in a slow version of an Ilka because which brand of manufacturer was going to be supplied for the games, none of the competitors were told until just before the games, because they didn't want all the competitors going out and buying that brand and then ditching all the others, because that wouldn't be fair commercially to them. So she found the slowest version of an Ilka she could, and she's been racing in that all year, except for Wearn, Semaine Olympic Française at the end of April, when she thought, I'll try my favorite boat there just to check in, see if I'm, maybe her confidence needed a bit of a boost. And she dominated in Wearn, and she thought, yep, that's okay. I'll step out of fast boat and I'll get back into slow boat again and make the best of what I can. And she says the weight distribution feels different, and she's a very responsive sailor, and she's a very kinetic sailor, the way she sails the boat. And she says the brand that she's ended up using here is her favorite brand, which is great. But she also felt that if everyone if they had the so-called slow boat as the supplied equipment, that she would have had a better handle on it than most of her rivals anyway. So either way, I think she felt fairly well prepared.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, of course, you have now started and triggered, without comment, a global search on Google to find out which brands you're talking about. But that's, I mean, that is amazing. I do remember, I won't labor on this because we haven't got long, but I do remember talking to her years ago. I think it was in the lead up to 2012. And I was doing a study for Yachting World, actually, on what makes the laser class tick. And what really struck me then, and that was in the days of strict one design, was how far sailors at that level would go to figure out what the variations are in equipment, be it the mast or the boom or whatever, so that when they got to the games, they could go and measure the boat they were given, figure out where it was on the spreadsheet, and say, right, it needs to be set up like this, this, and this, and off they go. It blew me away when I heard that. It sounds like we're going back into an even more potentially an even more complicated version of that.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go any further into that because we have got a lot of ground to cover. But yeah, for us nerds, it's fascinating territory. And then just to square off the Ilkas, we still haven't seen the men race their race, and Matt Wearn looks set to be the first ever to defend his Olympic title in the men's dinghy. So not even to go back through Ben Ainsley, Robert Scheidt, Tom Slingsby, Tom Burton, the various that have got Paul Goodison. No one's ever won back-to-back gold medals in the laser.
Wow.
Yeah, a strange statistic. But also, this will be the fourth time running that an Australian will have won the gold medal. So, fair play to the coaching team at Australia, but behind all that success as well. But we should say that Pavlos Kontides from Cyprus has an outside chance of taking the gold. So I predict that Matt Wearn, I did ask him, but he said, I don't know yet. But he does. He's probably going to do a match race on Pavlos Kontides, which will put Kontides under threat for his silver medal, and he could be sailed all the way out of the medals, which is bad news for him, but it's good news for Peru's Stefano Peschiera, who's in third, and also for Britain's Mickey Beckett in fourth. He needs all the help he can get. But let's just talk about Stefano Peschiera, because I looked up how many medals Peru has won in the history of sailing. Sorry, history of the Olympics. How many have they won across all the history of the modern Olympic Games? Just four in all of the Olympics.
Really?
So, and never in sailing. So how much of a big deal is that Stefano Peschiera is here in bronze medal position with a chance of winning Peru's first ever medal in Olympic sailing?
Wow, that's incredible. Well, you do realize the other thing that you've just inadvertently done is you've just written a whole long list of sailing pub questions for a pub quiz. There's a whole load of questions in there. I'm going to save those.
Yeah, well, this video we're making now. That's the cheat sheet for all the answers. So there's tons more I could go into on that. But anyway, let's put that aside because we've still got a lot of other stuff in play. And today we saw the conclusion of the opening series of the Nacra 17 catamaran. They've completed all 9 of their races. Is it 9 or 12? I'm losing track. Might be 12. Anyway, all races completed. Now, I would have predicted that by now, Tita and Banti from Italy would have got a sufficient points gap that the gold medal would pretty much already be there. It's just like Marit Bouwmeester in the women's laser. But that's not the case, because Argentina, another country from South America, Matteo Magdalani and Eugenia Bosco, the guys who beat Santiago Lange to selection for Argentina, have had a fantastic week. And going through today, during the course of the racing today, closed within about 4 or 5 points of the Italians, but then had slipped on a bit of a banana skin in the last race, finished 12th in that one. And now the gap is something like 12 points or something like that. So I asked Tita and Banti if they plan to match race tomorrow. Tita said, no, pretty unlikely. We're going to probably do a loose cover. So that's how they say that they're going to go about it.
And how about John Gimson and his crew? They're up there in the chat.
John Gimson and his fiancée Anna Burnett. Yeah, they just got up to third by the end of the opening series. They've been playing catch up all week. They've kept their cool. They've looked really cool every day. Said, no, it's all right. Other people will fall by the wayside. Hasn't quite happened as much as they expected, but they are on joint points with the Kiwis. So at the moment, it looks like a battle for bronze between New Zealand and Great Britain, but they're only 6 points behind the Argentinians. And the Argentinians will have to look over their shoulder. And so there's a possibility of Britain or New Zealand getting up to silver, but there's no way that Italy can drop lower than silver. They've already bagged a minimum of silver and look pretty nailed on for gold. And then meanwhile, in the 470s, a bit of a surprise leader with Austria leading. And that's nice to see. Lara Vadlau and Lucas Maher. I didn't have them really anywhere close to the medal zone in my predictions. I think they're sailing the regatta of their lives. They got a black flag in the first race in the opening. That can that is their back against the wall. That can affect the way that you start. But the rest of their scores have been absolutely fantastic. And they were so relieved to have got that black flag monkey off their back today, because you just carry the points that you carry into the final, and it's only about 4 points or so, or maybe a bit more ahead of the Spanish, who I would put as the gold medal favourites. And in third is Japan, and there are others who I can't remember right now. But basically, we've got a pretty open medal race in the 470s, so that could be pretty exciting. And then we still got the kites to go as well, so they had a bit of racing as well.
The weather has no doubt been the talk of the day today, certainly for those who didn't get to do their medal racing today, but quite a few races postponed as a result of that. What does the forecast look like over the next couple of days?
Oh, it's really not very good. Tomorrow, Wednesday, doesn't look much better than today, but these Nacras have been very good at banging out the racing in marginal conditions. 470 is not bad at it. The problem with pure foilers that rely purely on foiling, unlike the Nacra, which can still float, when you're talking about the boards, they're either flying or they're sinking. So the kites really don't need much. They when they were getting up going in 7 knots of breeze today, they were doing 25, 27 knots of speed. It's phenomenal when they're up. So when they're up, they're up, and when they're down, they're down. And we're seeing all kinds of scores coming out there. People who can't keep their kites in the sky, or can't keep their foils above, their board above the water. So that's all pretty wide open right now. But they're very aware of the fact that there may not be enough breeze to get them into a normal medal series. So that every race counts in a way that it doesn't normally, and that sort of thing that I referred to earlier with Gimson and Burnett and the Nacra, you can just play slowly, catchy monkey, chip away, let other people make the mistakes and let people fall by the wayside. You can't really afford to think like that here this week in Marseille, because you never know when the shutters are going to come down.
Amazing. It's amazing to hear the Nacras doing so well in the light stuff, because my first impression would be they've got such long boards and there's so much drag on those boards. You would have thought that would hold them back in the light, but it doesn't sound like it is.
No, you're probably right. It probably does hold them back a little bit, but they've always got enough of something to keep them going through all conditions. So that speaks well of their versatility for difficult weeks of breeze like the one that we're having.
And I don't want to get into a sort of into a deeper discussion about the pros and cons of medal racing and bringing it close to the shore. We'll leave that, as you said the other day, for another time. But one simple question around it has it been easier so far to keep the races going that we're going today because they're offshore? Was it just the medal race course that was a victim of the conditions, or was it just the breeze petered out across the whole day, across the whole area?
Yeah, I don't know, because the Nacras are fairly far out, and so it's hard to know if you'd have put another fleet out there how they might have fared, because the performance characteristics of these boats are so different as well. But yeah, the feeling is that the further out you go from the sailing centre, the more likely you are to find decent breeze. So it is back to that old compromise of got to keep the fans happy on the shore, of which there are many. And when the kites are coming back in to the beach, there's a row of boys to keep the swimmers and the holiday makers off one side of the beach. But immediately on the other side of those boys, just meters away from where these kites are flying into the shore, they're getting such massive roars and cheers from the crowd. And there's a real festival atmosphere there. And that's been done really, really well here. And so, it's so easy to make the games into or particularly Olympic regatta, a very sterile environment, and very red tape and box ticky and stuff like that. But down on that beach, there's a real sense of engagement with the crowds, and that's really nice to see.
Yeah, excellent. Well, one of the unforeseen benefits of having those races postponed and then cancelled was I went channel hopping today, and I ended up watching skateboarding. I'm not sure if I should admit this to my family or not, that I think I'm having a late life crisis, but it was fantastic. I really quite enjoyed it, but I better not start going on about that. But anyway, it was quite nice.
But it's relevant in the sense that this is what we're being compared against.
Exactly.
This is what Thomas Bach is talking about. He wants the Olympics to be more urban, and we got to be more creative. And I was having a chat with Simon Hiscox, and double Olympic medalist in the 49er, who's here fixing boats for the British team, and we were both admiring these kiters coming back into the beach. And just as they're about to land, they give the kite a little whack on the handle. The kite goes up in the air. They go up in the air. They grab their board from off their feet, hoik it under their armpit, and then they land on the beach and just walk up the beach like James Bond. And what, as Simon was saying, what if you made that the end of the race? That's the end of the race, and you even get extra points for style when you land.
That's a bit I'd like to be able to do.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of criticism of these medal race formats on social media. And there are legitimate arguments in every direction. But what most of us don't appreciate is the politics and the commercial considerations behind the games, and whether your sport stays in the games or not, and the compromises that you have to make to the purity of the sport to make it a show, to make it entertaining. Yeah, it's really tinkering around with the fundamentals of our sport. But the risk is, if we don't at least experiment and see what we can do, if we stick where we have been, or where we were 40 or 50 years ago, we just look irrelevant, and we'll probably get booted out. Yeah. So it's hard to know where that line should be. But some of these controversies at least have got us talking about it, and hopefully some good will come out of the things that have happened in the last week or so.
Good. Okay. Right. Well, that's all very good and very enlightening, as always, Andy. Thank you very much for that. We'll be watching closely tomorrow, and indeed the next day. We'll stay in touch, and I guess we'll hook up again when there's a little bit more to talk about, which sounds like it won't be very long, won't be very far away at all.
Well, 6 more gold medals still to be handed out, so still a lot to go, and not much time left to do it. So I'm sure next time we will have even more to talk about, Matt. So I look forward to that.
All righty, jolly good. Great stuff. Speak to you later.
All right. Cheers. Bye.